Okay, Discovery Season 3, Episode 1, That Hope Is You. Who's that hope? I knew it was going to be Michael Burnham before the episode even started, because Michael Burnham is the predetermined puzzle piece to complete the universe in the context of Discovery. And I hoped we weren't going to play Season 3 like that. I hope they didn't play me that way, but they are. So again, we have the hero Michael Burnham in Season 3, and I thought this episode sucked. I'm gonna be honest, I liked the first episode of Season 2 better, even though Season 2 was kind of aping TOS stuff with Pike and all that. So maybe they should get points for originality. This episode begins with what I assumed was the final Starfleet / Federation officer in the distant future, being woken up and going through like a time lapse kind of his daily routine, looking after this, the last Federation outpost. He's woken up by a bird. The bird actually has a holographic projection of the time on it, which is kind of cool. It's an alarm clock. So he woke up from the alarm clock, and I guess he's checking for signals on his stupid holographic display. I'm tired of the holographic displays. It doesn't look cool. It looks immediately dated. It looks like something that came out 10 years ago. It's not interesting. And for some reason, the projections of things in this time, they kind of like form up like sand. Like it used to be something that would just project, kind of like a holodeck. Now everything forms out of this weird, active sand-like material. It's really stupid. It looks less advanced than the things we had, already seen in Discovery. Like, why can't we just project things? And I mean, supposedly this takes place after TNG, if you buy the fact that this takes place in the canon timeline. And if that's the case, then why don't projections just pop into reality? Like, it seems very unintuitive to me. Seems less advanced somehow. Besides the fact that we've already seen the relativity ship, and that didn't have holographic displays and all that. The intro to this episode is just basically Star Wars. It's just Star Wars. It's just two ships chasing each other through space, shooting at each other, and they're flying right behind each other in amongst debris and stuff, and it was visually confusing. This whole episode was a VFX circus. I don't know if I'm too old now, or there's something wrong with me, but I'm starting to have a hard time even following what's going on screen. Am I the only one? I have a hard time seeing, like, look at the main viewer here. I have a hard time telling what's going on there. It's too much going on. I can't handle it. My brain is too old and stupid to handle it. Same with the dialogue. I had to rewind a bunch of times just to try to hear what people are saying, and even then I couldn't tell. Like the guy at the Federation outpost, the last guy from the Federation. I don't know what his name is. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't hear it. There's something wrong with the audio mixing, or the way or the direction of the scene. It just doesn't emphasize what's coming out of their mouth. I couldn't make it out. Lower Decks had a little bit of that, but not as bad as this. Burnham comes through the wormhole from the past. She's arriving at what she thinks is Terrelysium, and she somehow runs into Book's ship, and Book's ship is this ridiculous, irregular shape. I don't even know what. I can't compare it to anything. It's just like a strange object. I don't know how to. Like, if I were Eagle Moss, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know how to even design this thing. It's very odd. I cannot picture it in my mind, which is sad. But so they land on the planet, as you can see here, and somehow Burnham crashes Book's ship. I don't know why. Why would that crash a ship? I don't know. And they miraculously land on the planet within walking distance of each other. They meet each other, and then we find out that they're also in walking distance of a city. So the amount of luck going on here is really astounding. You had to be very lucky to both land that close to each other on that planet. You had to be very lucky to hit each other in space like that, and then land on the planet close together, survive the landing, and then be within walking distance of a city. Okay? Suspension of disbelief, guys. So we find out that Book is on the run from some guy named Cosmo who wants his cargo. Like, Book stole the cargo from Cosmo, who in turn stole it from somebody else. So Book is kind of just basically Han Solo, if this needed to get any more Star Warsy. And we go to the city, and I can't even remember why we went to the city. I can't, it was just too confusing. Anyway, they go there, we find out that the burn was all of the dilithium in the galaxy just blowing up at the same time. And this has caused the destruction of the Federation and the destruction of like long-range travel and communications, which is kind of interesting, and it's kind of like Andromeda, if you've ever seen that show. But they get into an insane VFX circus with people shooting shit everywhere. Burnham gets injected with some type of truth serum, and it makes her high. And some people, I've seen some reviews saying that they liked Burnham being a little bit more emotional in that scene, but it didn't work for me. Sorry, I was off put. I wanted to skip it. It was a little bit too much for me. So they escape from this city. They defeat their pursuers with the help of Book's cargo, which turned out to be a living thing, which was like a giant slug. In the process, Michael Burnham gets sucked on by the slug, a lot like Boimler did. Remember that in, I think, episode 2 of Lower Decks, where Boimler got sucked on by a giant spider. So we're already kind of retreading Lower Decks here, which was a much better show. They leave the planet on Book's ship, and they go to a sanctuary where they're transporting this animal to. And it turns out Book, while being a thief of sorts, is also some type of animal conservation worker, I guess. And he brought the slug back to its home planet in enough time for it to breed, for its breeding cycle. And yeah, that's really what happened in this episode. Other than the fact that at the very end they meet the guy from the beginning, he was the last guy working at the Federation outpost, and inexplicably, Michael is the only one who can raise the Federation flag. I don't know what that's about. Why? It's just a flag. How come he couldn't raise it? He's as much a member of the Federation as Burnham is, really. If we're that far into the future, who cares about the rules? You know? And that's where the episode ends. And I thought the episode was pathetic, and it had no real aim or purpose. This episode asked no philosophical question of the viewer. Again, it's another one of those serialized episodes that cannot play on its own. You cannot watch this episode on its own like it could Lower Decks. And I'm starting to miss that. I'm kind of wishing that Star Trek stayed single episode stories, to be honest. So, with that out of the way, let's check out some of the things that I noticed about this episode. I'm very tired of Burnham's Iron Man suit, and I'm glad it's gone. I think this is the last time we're going to see it. It even does the Iron Man face cam thing, which is so dated. I mean, you're stealing something from like 2008. Come on, guys. So the time suit flies away back into the wormhole. I don't know why. Like, it's just, we're so close to magic here, guys. The technology is so close to magic that it's getting very hard for me to believe. This episode was plagued, again, by shaky cam. Apparently they don't know how to use a tripod. The camera was zooming around all over the place, giving me a headache. 5 minutes in, I looked at the timer. We got 5 minutes in before we had to see a stupid karate scene. Don't want to see that. I don't want to see it. We're hitting a new low with the script here. This is what I call trailer dialogue script writing, where every single line was written like it was supposed to be for a trailer. Very heady dialogue, like faith and vision and hope and emotional dialogue that didn't seem to be present in Star Trek beforehand. Remember, guys, emotion was not a factor, okay, and faith is not a strategy, and so on and so on. That's the way it used to be. Nowadays, faith is a thing, emotion is important, whatever. Dialogue like, Federation isn't just ships and warp drive, it's a vision. And she says this to Book, and I actually laughed out loud. I laughed out loud at how stupid that was, like, how completely devoid of self-awareness Burnham is in the time she's in and who she's talking to. That kind of dialogue would fly in Starfleet Academy in 2200, okay? Not 3000 whatever, and to a Han Solo type character. Come on. And of course this episode called, And That Hope Is You. And the Federation liaison character says that to Burnham. Oh my god. Come on. Come on. Like, what is this? This is like Man of Steel. Trailer dialogue. When will this trope end? When will people start talking like normal people again? Book says to one of the Andorian security guards in the city to like pretend to be Andorian for a minute. And I was just thinking, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Why would Book say that? Like, does Book know what every Andorian is like? Did he know what Andorians used to be like? You know, Andorians? Did he know that? Is he 1,000 years old? What's he talking about? Why would you say that to somebody? How can we get away with this stuff so much in Star Trek now? It's really strange. In Lower Decks, I think Mariner called Dr. Tana a cat person, or a cat. And here we're telling an Andorian to act like an Andorian. What is this? I kind of thought that the Orion men in this episode were cool looking. They kind of bucked the trend of the way the Orions used to look with like belts and metal shit all over them and stuff. This Orion guy just kind of looked like a normal person. I kind of thought it was cool. I'd like to see more of them. There is a moment in this episode where Book, he prays. His head starts to glow with these lights on it, and he summons a plant. And then the plant, the dew that falls off the plant, is used to heal Burnham's injury. So we have an alien. I guess Book's an alien. I don't think he's a human anymore, but we have a character who can summon a plant that can be used to make healing potions. Like this is Dungeons and Dragons or something. I mean, I suppose it's not impossible for Star Trek, but it was just kind of, it's just kind of one of those things that's weird. After Book figures out that Burnham really is a time traveler, he mentions that all time travel technology was destroyed after the temporal wars, which is odd. Why would you say that? Because it factors into nothing. If you think about it, he says, Michael says she's a time traveler. Book's like, time travel technology is destroyed. But in reality, because the time travel technology is destroyed, doesn't mean that people can't come to your time. It just means that you can't have people go from your time to another time. So it's kind of a moot point. Like, destroying your time travel technology doesn't mean other people can't arrive. So I don't know why it was a factor. So to conclude, this episode was absolutely rife with trailer dialogue, inexplicable VFX shots, a plot that manages to be bare bones and confusing, which is a bad combination. The plot operates with an inexplicably high level of luck. If you need this much luck for your plot to operate, you've got a problem. Book's acting was alright. I kind of thought he portrayed the character decently, even though at the beginning he was a complete asshole. And then by the end, he was a complete cool guy. Like, what happened? You know, he seemed like he had a change of character very fast that I hope they kind of explain later. But Book was alright. I kind of liked Book. The ship design was horrific, but it was interesting seeing the canon aliens coming back, like Andorians and Orions. I believe we see a member of Morn's race as well. The first episode of Season 2 was better, and all this clunky dialogue cannot cover up a bare bones plot. 4 out of 10. I wanted to give it 3, but this is the first episode, so I was going to be generous. I'm giving it a 4. Okay? This was about as bad as the worst episodes of Lower Decks. I'm sorry this review was a little bit late. My schedule kind of just didn't line up right this time for me to watch it in peace. However, I'm not going to lie, I kind of almost forgot to watch it. Like, I had to be reminded. Something happened and reminded me to watch it. Yeah, reminded me to watch Star Trek. That's pretty bad when you have to be reminded to watch it, because I really just didn't want to watch it. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to tune in. I didn't want to waste an hour, but I friggin' did. So, hopefully that means something to you guys. Hopefully CBS won't take this video down. So that's about all. See you later.